Everyone thought summer would start with sun and laughter. But for me, it started with a drawing left at my door and a pair of eyes that should have stayed blacked out. That's when she walked in. Her name was Harper. Nobody knew much about her, except she had transferred in about a month before, right after spring break. Pale, quiet, and always carrying this huge sketchbook like it was glued to her arms. She never talked unless spoken to, and even then, her answers were brief. She always sat in the corner of the room, sketching nonstop. The teachers didn't seem to care. Guess they were just happy she wasn't causing trouble. One of my friends, Alex, joked once that she was probably drawing dead bodies or something. We all laughed. That was back when we thought Harper was just shy and maybe a little weird. Until the sketchbook incident. On the very last day of school, we were allowed to roam the halls a bit. Kind of a controlled chaos thing. Most people were signing yearbooks or sneaking in selfies with their friends. I was cleaning out my locker when I saw Harper standing at the far end of the hallway, just staring at me. She didn't blink. She wasn't holding her sketchbook. I gave a weird smile and turned away. That night, I had a few people over to celebrate summer. We ordered pizza, played video games, and watched dumb horror movies until like 2 a.m. It was me, my cousin Jordan, and two friends, Eli and Marcus. My parents were out of town for the weekend, so we had the place to ourselves. Around 2:30, the power flickered. It didn't go out completely, just this weird soft brownout that made the lights dim and the Wi-Fi cut for a second. Then we heard the knock, 3 soft taps at the front door. We all froze. Jordan laughed it off, assuming it was someone pranking us. He went to the door, opened it, and found nothing. No one was there. But lying on the welcome mat was a single sheet of paper. A sketch. It was me. Not like a funny cartoon or anime-style portrait. This was photorealistic, down to the small scar I have above my eyebrow. But the eyes in the drawing were blacked out, scribbled over completely in thick graphite, so aggressively it had nearly torn the page. Under the portrait, in tiny cursive letters, were the words, "You shouldn't have looked away." We stood there in silence for a long moment. I checked the street. Nothing. No footsteps, no cars, no movement. Just darkness and the humming of street lamps. Jordan was creeped out. But Eli and Marcus thought it was badass and assumed it was a prank. Me? I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. We went back inside. I locked the door. We tried to pretend it didn't happen. But then the second knock came. This time, it was at the back door, a door that led out to the fenced-in yard. I grabbed a flashlight and crept to the sliding glass door with Jordan. We peered out into the backyard and saw a figure. It was a girl, standing just on the edge of the patio, holding a sketchbook. The second I turned the light on her, she bolted, ran like an animal on all fours before springing upright and disappearing into the dark. We were too shocked to move. I swear I recognized the jacket she wore. It was the same one Harper had on in school every day. We didn't sleep that night. Nobody did. The next morning, we found 3 more sketches slipped under the front door, one for each of my friends. Each one had their eyes blacked out. Each one had a different message. You laughed. You watched. You don't belong. We didn't tell anyone. I don't know why. Maybe we thought no one would believe us. Or maybe we were scared it would get worse. That was the last time we ever saw Harper. On the first day back after summer, she was just gone. Teachers wouldn't talk about her. Her name wasn't on the roster. Her locker had been emptied out. I asked around. One janitor, this older guy who worked at the school forever, told me something strange. He said Harper had been a student at Ridgewood 5 years ago, but she died in a car crash during her freshman year. I thought he was messing with me, but when I asked for proof, he just shook his head and walked away. And here's the thing that really freaks me out. I still have the sketch, the one she drew of me. Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I pull it out of the drawer where I hid it. And I swear, the eyes aren't blacked out anymore. They're just watching me, waiting. They say your last night of high school is supposed to feel like freedom, like the world is finally cracking open for you. Ours did too, for a while. But somewhere between the neon diner lights and the quiet Oregon backstreets, we saw something that turned celebration into silence. A man, a trash bag, and a stare that still haunts me, even now. It was the night of our high school graduation, June 2022. The actual ceremony had been over for a few hours, but nobody wanted the night to end. A few of us, me, Ethan, Jake, Rhea, and Savannah, decided to skip the bigger parties and have our own little celebration downtown. We figured we'd grab late-night burgers and wander around, just soaking it all in one last time before everyone went their separate ways. Our small town in Oregon didn't have a whole lot going on, but there was something comforting about the quiet streets and the neon lights of 24-hour diners. We were all half-buzzed, laughing about dumb high school stuff and enjoying the freedom of finally being done. It was around 1:30 a.m. when things started to feel off. We were cutting through the back streets to get to Ethan's car, parked a couple blocks away. That's when we saw him. This guy was standing completely still in the mouth of a narrow alley, like too still, like a statue. He was tall, wearing an old dusty brown coat and holding a trash bag in one hand. He looked like he hadn't moved in hours. At first, we thought he was just a drunk or a homeless guy. But something about the way he was watching us made all our laughter stop. Jake muttered, "Dude, what the hell?" And we all instinctively moved closer together. We crossed the street to avoid him, and for a second, it seemed fine. But as we turned the corner, Savannah looked back and whispered, "He's following us." Sure enough, he'd stepped out of the alley and was now walking slowly in our direction. Same trash bag in hand, same dead stare. No expression, no words. At this point, we weren't panicking, just uneasy. We picked up the pace, and after a few blocks, we thought we'd lost him. Ethan joked about calling the guy Garbage Santa, and we laughed it off, relieved. But that laugh didn't last. When we reached the parking lot, something was wrong. Ethan's car door was open. We all froze. "I locked it," he said immediately. "I know I locked it." Rhea looked around. "You think it was him?" "I don't know," I said. "Let's just get in the damn car and leave." Inside, the car smelled off, like wet cardboard and old clothes. Ethan turned the ignition, and we peeled out of the lot. We didn't stop driving until we got back to my place, which was the safest option since my parents were out of town and didn't care what we did as long as we didn't wreck the house. We tried to laugh it off again, turning on music, opening sodas, talking about college. But something still lingered, like the air hadn't fully cleared from earlier. I went out back to grab a lawn chair from the shed. That's when I saw it. On my back porch, a trash bag. I stared at it for a full 10 seconds, brain completely blank. It wasn't there earlier. I knew it wasn't. I slowly walked up to it and gently kicked it with my foot. Inside were clothes, dirty, wet, and moldy clothes. And underneath them, a rusted pair of bolt cutters and a knife. A really big, hunting-style knife. I staggered back and yelled for the others. Jake and Ethan came out and immediately turned pale. "I don't think this was random," Jake said. "He followed us. He got into the car. He knew where we were going." "Wait." Savannah stepped outside, phone in hand. "Guys, look at this." It was a photo, airdropped to her phone, time-stamped just 15 minutes ago. The photo showed the 5 of us sitting on my couch, laughing, completely unaware. The picture had been taken from inside the house. That's when real panic set in. We locked every door and window and called the cops. We didn't even care if it made us look paranoid. 2 officers showed up after about 25 minutes, swept the house, and took the trash bag and the photo as evidence. They didn't find anyone inside, but one of the officers told us something that chilled me more than anything. "There were scuff marks on the upstairs window," he said. "Someone climbed in and out." I didn't sleep that night. None of us did. Over the next few days, we kept looking over our shoulders. I filed a police report. They never found him. No name, no arrest, no motive. I've moved to another state since then. Started college, tried to forget. But sometimes, late at night, I still check my AirDrop settings, just to make sure it's off. Just to make sure he can't find me again. Because I don't think he wanted to kill us. I think he wanted to belong. And I don't think we've seen the last of him. Some kids disappear. Nolan unraveled. One day he was just the quiet guy in the back row. The next, room 209 was sealed off, and no one ever said his name again. But I remember. And now, I'm starting to think he never left. To this day, I don't really know what happened to Nolan, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to. He was always off. Not in the scary horror movie way. Just off. Like he was tuned into a different frequency than the rest of us. He transferred to our school at the beginning of 8th grade, showed up out of nowhere, and sat in the exact same seat in every class. Last row, far right corner, like he was trying to disappear into the wall. He never talked unless absolutely forced to. And even then, it was just a whisper. Not the kind you strain to hear, but the kind you almost don't want to. It always felt like his voice didn't belong in his body. He wore the same thing every single day. Black jeans, black hoodie, and a red string bracelet tied tight around his left wrist. Even during the hottest days, he never took the hoodie off. Some kids made fun of him, others avoided him completely. I didn't do either, but I wouldn't say I was friendly either. I just didn't want to give him a reason to look at me too long. Nolan didn't eat lunch in the cafeteria. He'd take his tray outside and sit behind the gym, even when it rained. One time, when a teacher forced him to eat inside, he just sat there staring at his food, not moving, for the entire period. The lunch monitor said he didn't even blink. The only reason I'm telling this story is because of what happened on that day. The day he vanished. It was late May, a Friday, and we were 2 weeks from the end of the school year. It was one of those lazy, chaotic days when teachers give up trying to teach. and students barely pretend to listen. Everyone was half checked out, making summer plans, goofing off. Except Nolan. He looked wired, eyes darting around the room, hands twitching under the desk. I sat 2 rows ahead of him in Mr. Hanley's history class, and I remember hearing him mumble something to himself, over and over. I couldn't make out the words, just the rhythm of it, like a chant or prayer. That day, we were supposed to be watching some documentary about the Cold War, but the screen froze halfway through. Mr. Hanley went out to find the tech guy, leaving us alone for a few minutes. That's when it happened. The fire alarm went off, but it wasn't like the usual drill. No warning, no teacher instructions, just the siren blaring all of a sudden, way too loud, way too long. The class froze for a second, confused. Then everyone slowly started filing out. I was halfway down the hallway when I realized Nolan wasn't with us. He was still sitting at his desk, staring at the paused screen like he was waiting for something. I stopped. For reasons I still don't understand, I turned back and stepped into the doorway. "Nolan?" I asked. He didn't look at me. He just whispered, "They're here." I got chills, like immediate goosebumps. Before I could say anything else, I heard footsteps behind me, fast ones. And then Mr. Hanley came jogging down the hallway, looking freaked out. "You, get outside now," he barked, pointing at me. I didn't argue, I ran. We all gathered outside in the field, and for the first few minutes, it felt like a normal drill. People joking around, teachers doing head counts, the usual. But then the mood shifted. 2 police cars rolled up to the front parking lot, then 3 more, then a fire truck. One of the teachers spoke to an officer, then started gathering a small group of students, maybe 10 or 12, and pulling them aside. I was one of them. They didn't explain anything, just told us to come with them. We were taken to the auditorium where the principal and 2 police officers were waiting. That's when things got really weird. The principal, Mr. Wallace, said they'd found something disturbing in one of the classrooms. A threat, he called it. A kind of message written on the chalkboard in red marker. Not blood, but meant to look like it. It said, 209, let them through. Room 209. That was Mr. Hanley's room, where Nolan had been. One of the officers asked if we had noticed any strange behavior from anyone that day. I didn't speak up, not then. But I wanted to. I wanted to tell them that Nolan had said they're here, and meant it. We weren't allowed back in the building. School was dismissed early. Parents had to come pick us up. I didn't see Nolan at dismissal. No one did. Over the weekend, rumors exploded. Someone said Nolan had been caught trying to open a door on the 2nd floor that wasn't supposed to be there. Someone else said he'd left a journal in his locker filled with symbols and names, none of them students. One kid swore he saw Nolan walking into the woods behind the school fence that afternoon, just as the fire alarm went off. He said he was following the girl with silver hair. There is no girl with silver hair at our school. By Monday, the school had blocked off room 209 entirely. New locks, blackout curtains, no explanation. Mr. Hanley was gone too. We were told he'd taken an emergency leave of absence. No one mentioned Nolan, not once. Not in the announcements, not in any emails. It was like he'd never been there. But I remember. I remember his voice. I remember that red string on his wrist. And I remember what he whispered right before the alarm went off. Last week, I walked past the school building on my way home from work. I'm in college now. Different city, different life. But I was back visiting family. It was late, close to sunset. And just as I passed the Old East Wing, I looked up at the second floor. The light in room 209 was on, and in the window, just barely, I could see a figure wearing a black hoodie